Perfect. Right, I think we'll make a start. So, hello everyone, my name is Ellie and I will be your host for this evening. And we're super excited to have Deloitte with us tonight, who are here to talk to you all about their apprenticeships, the current application process, and then you'll hear from some of the current apprentices too. So tonight we have Zion with us, who is Deloitte's early careers team member, and a couple of apprentices. We've got Craig, Sophie, and Ben, who are here to talk to you guys. So just before I do pass over to Zion, just a couple of things from me. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, then please feel free to pop them in the chat box, and they will be answered throughout or during our live Q&A session at the end of the webinar. This webinar will also be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel tomorrow, so you can always watch it back if you have missed anything. But that's everything from me. So Zion, I will pass straight over to you.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Can you hear me? Okay, my camera's a bit iffy at the moment, but can you all hear me okay? Cool, perfect. So I'm Zion. Lovely to meet you guys this evening. I am from the Deloitte Early Careers team. Just a bit about myself quickly before we get started. I work within a talent engagement team. And part of what that means is I work with some of our stakeholders, senior hiring managers across the range of the business areas, really to kind of find out what do they look for, what roles are they recruiting for, and how can we go out into the schools and begin to engage with those students. So that's kind of my role. And today we're going to kind of take you through, some of who we are at the firm, what we do, our culture, who we kind of engage with. And then you'd find out a bit more about, some of the apprentices and, their experience so far. And yeah, how you can get engaged with the firm. So I just encourage you guys, take notes. If you've got a notebook, laptop, iPad, take notes, ask as many questions as you can. I think the key thing at the moment is really how can you understand our process, and really how can you guys really take this forward. So when we do open applications in September, you're really comfortable in kind of navigating the application process. So really ensure that you don't leave here with any questions. All right. Perfect. So just about the firm, you may have heard about Deloitte before, normally within the framework of being a big four. So we are one of those big four firms alongside PwC, EY, and KPMG. We are a professional services firm, simply meaning that we work with clients to solve their problems. I think one of the biggest misconceptions we have from students is that Deloitte is really just a consultancy firm and that's all we do. We work across consultancy, across audit, across technology, cybersecurity, risk, law, real estate, private corporate bodies, honestly, sustainability. Essentially, we work across a range of sectors and industries. And really what that means for you guys is do not box yourself in. If you are interested in working at the firm, there is always going to be a role for you. Don't just think I want to do consultancy or accountancy or finance, or don't just think, oh, I need to have studied accountancy or I need to have studied math or some sort of consultancy, academic subjects. We recruit from all sorts of disciplines into these roles. So again, there is no pressure for you guys to be the experts. Really, I'll talk about this a bit later on. We're looking at the people, and how we can build you up. And do you have the competencies, the strengths, the soft skills to engage with our clients and really make a difference in our firm? So just before we move on to some more information, I'm going to play a short video which really highlights who we are as a people, as a firm, who our people are. Just before this, I think one of the main things that we really pride ourselves on is diversity and inclusion. It's leading the way, it's collaborating for impact, it's taking care of one another. Those are some of the values that we as a firm uphold ourselves on. And this is just one video that you can see. I'm going to play in a minute just to kind of exemplify who we are, what we do, and how you can fit into our firm. Just wanting to check, did everyone, I just saw a few messages in the chat, were you people able to hear and see the video? Just give me a thumbs up if you're able to. Okay, so majority of people were. I think we can probably circulate the slides after. Yeah, so you can kind of check that out once we finish. Perfect. So just again, looking at some of the work that we do, as I mentioned, we work with a range of clients across a range of industries. As you can kind of see there on the slide, we've got public sector, private sector, financial services. And again, these are some, big names that you kind of see on the news, on magazines, on brands, on TV. We work with them across a range of projects. So as I mentioned, a lot of people think that we just do, let's say, consulting. But an example of where we work with a client and the range of industry opportunities is you might be working within consultancy, maybe business transformation role, and your client might be the NHS. So in that particular type of job function, you're providing consultancy services on how the NHS can perhaps change their structure, support their people, maybe looking at the wage gap within the NHS, and that's a service you'll be providing. On the other hand, you might actually be working within audit, and your client might be, a branch of the NHS, and the function varies. You're looking at the financial history of that particular branch of the NHS, of that particular office. You're looking at perhaps expenditure. You're looking at what has been immigrated in terms of maybe equipment into the hospital, and you're providing that financial service. And that's just an example that it's really about what is a job function that you're interested in and how can that be delivered across a range of industries. So really what you should really be thinking about is actually, what do I want to do? What do I enjoy doing? And then when you come into the firm, you'd have many opportunities to deliver that across a range of industry. And I think the benefit, for you guys coming in as apprenticeships, and my companies can talk about this later on, is you can perhaps, within one particular space of time, be working with a client in one particular industry, and maybe your next project might be in a completely different industry. And the benefit there is for you is you're building a profile of expertise, the ability to actually say, I've consulted in the healthcare sector, I've consulted in the real estate sector, in the private sector, gives you the ability to kind of taste and really pick and understand, what does it take to work in XYZ area, and actually, what do I prefer? You might be someone who is really interested in maybe the financial sector, and you have a particular client project in that area, and you find out, actually, I don't like that. But I really enjoyed working within the technology sector. And that's the benefit of this kind of program, the ability to engage on a range of different types of work and really understand, not just how do you fit into the firm, but how can the opportunities at the firm, kind of fit you, who you are, your kind of interest as well. I hope that is, I hope that's clear. This is a slide we we really love this slide. This kind of really brag and really show how much effort we put into our firm, how much effort we put into our people. I believe when I started this particular role in 2020, we had pumped in 3 million within the UK offices for training and development for our staff. And part of what this really means is, as I mentioned, you are not coming in as the experts. If you have knowledge, some prior experience, that is amazing. And also you can draw from that. However, we understand that you're students, that you're learning, you're building your career, you're learning about the landscape of work, you're building your professional profile. And our job as employers is to help you kind of navigate that kind of thought process, that career changes, the ability to skill up, to engage in different types of projects. And these awards are just a snapshot of how we're able to do that. So as you can kind of see, the first one there, the UK Best Workplace 2023. So really kind of talking about our employees, our colleagues enjoying working at the firm, enjoying coming into whether it's office space, working online, working with their teams, working on types of projects, being voted as a great workplace to live, the best workplace to work, is a huge achievement, and very much speaks well of how we try and develop an inclusive, equal culture within the firm. For you guys, what might be really relevant is the top 10 apprentices for employer in 2023. So really looking at within the hundreds of apprenticeship opportunities, we are within that top 10 bracket. So really just kind of showing, again, the kind of value we place on you guys as apprentices. I think one thing that's really important to say in my role is we go out to schools, universities, organizations that have students, um, charities that may work with students, really to engage you guys and bring you guys into the firm. And one thing that's really kind of key to know is if you engage on some of these earlier programs, we call them early identification programs. So perhaps you guys now as apprentices, or if perhaps you were a year 10 student and you joined one of our insight evenings, really put your foot forward. Then we could fast track your application to maybe our career shapers program for year 12s. If you really do well there as well, we can fast track your application for the apprenticeship program. Example, again, if you're a university student and you did a summer internship within the first year, you did really well, we can fast track the application to a full-time graduate position. And that's really, us kind of showing that trust and value that we put in you guys as apprentices, as young people with a lot to provide and give to create impact. So really have that in mind. You are a valued member. You come in and you're not just getting teas, coffees, doing admin. You are engaging with clients, working on projects, building your profile, and gaining valuable experience. All right. So, just by a show of hands, how many of you guys, I wouldn't be able to count at all, but how many of you guys have considered an apprenticeship? I can see 6, 7, 18, 30. Wow, it's jumping. All right. Okay, 53. Wow, yeah. A lot of you guys have considered an apprenticeship. So that's really great. Obviously, kind of being here. Um, I'm not sure how many of you guys know what an apprenticeship looks like, but just to kind of detail what it looks like within the firm, what it normally is a 4-day working week and 1 day study. So you'll be working 4 days throughout the week. That could be Monday to Thursday, and then on the Friday you will be either, if you're course, if the kind of area you're kind of working in is attached to a professional qualification. So I know, I believe in Scotland, if you are working on a cybersecurity apprenticeship, you'll be also signed up to the University of Edinburgh doing a cybersecurity degree on the Fridays. And at the end of that apprenticeship program, that 3 or 4 years, you would have all of that work experience and have a degree. If you are perhaps doing an audit apprenticeship, similarly, you would be working that 4 days, but then the 1 day might be you doing your chartered apprenticeship professional qualification. So the benefit really there is actually in those 3 or 4 years, you're building experience, valuable experience at a prestigious firm. You're building your networks and relationships. You're engaging in a range of projects and clients across a range of industries. You're developing your specialism. But at the end, you're also either gaining that professional qualification or that degree. And I think that is really valuable. One thing again that is, of course, you'll be happy to know, it is fully paid as well. So yeah, I think working, gaining that independence, gaining that financial independence as well, yeah, it's really beneficial. I think one thing again that we really try and stress, and just a disclaimer, there is no right or wrong between university and apprenticeship. It's really about what works for you. But what we do observe within the firm is that if, for example, I'm going to use Sophie and Craig as an example here. If Sophie chose to do a Bright Start apprenticeship, but Craig actually chose to go to university, what we find is by the time Sophie finishes her apprenticeship in that 3 or 4 years, she might be in a assistant manager or manager's position, due to the by virtue of the program and how we structure it. Whereas Craig will come in as an analyst, and have to kind of work their way up. So we see that actually those who come into that Bright Start program, because they spent 4 years with the firm, they feel that professionalism, how we work, the frameworks, the tools we use for stakeholder engagement. They, at the end of that 4 years, get slotted into a more senior position, um, outside of those perhaps who, so my lighting is just gone, sorry, outside of those who perhaps do the graduate program. I'm just going to turn the camera off because my light is gone. So yeah, that's a real benefit there. So if you are perhaps considering or on the edge of, should I go to university or should I, do a Bright Start apprenticeship? I think, and you're really considering career promotion and you want to really kind of go fast, that Bright Start apprenticeship route might be an option for you if you want to progress quite quickly within those 4 years. As shown on the screen, it is a 4-year scheme as well, so that's across most of our programs. There may be different variations of 3 years here and there, depending on the particular business area you apply for. And at the end of that program, you are guaranteed a permanent job when you're finished. So it's not a case of you finish and then you have to apply for a permanent position. Because you've been working with us, you've built your profile, everything I've kind of mentioned before, you get slotted straight into a permanent role. So that job guarantee is there. And the only reason perhaps why you might not get that is maybe if you haven't been kind of keeping up to standard, doing the kind of whether it's for exams you're doing for the degree or for professional qualification. But along the way, you do get support. So when you come in, you might have a buddy. This will be someone who is probably a bit more senior in the firm, who can support you just on those maybe little questions. How do I do this? How do I access that? Who do I go to for X, Y, Z? You'd have that kind of informal mentor type of person. But you also have someone that we call a people leader. So this is perhaps your manager, and their role is really designed to actually look at perhaps what are your interests, what do you want to develop, are there any areas or industries you want to support in, what does what do you want your progression to look like, and your people leader can provide that guidance, advice, on what projects you need to get involved in, what kind of client work you need to do, what skills you need to deliver, for you to progress in your role. So it really is a matter of how fast and how far do you want to go at the firm, and we have people in place and training in place for you guys to really maximize that. So what's in it for you as an apprentice? Learning and development. So we have a platform called Copilot. Um, Ellie, just let me know if I'm running out of time. I know I've been going for a while. But we have a platform called Copilot where we have a range of courses internally that you can enroll on, and just gain, maybe extra skills, extra learning, extra ability, of how do I do X, Y, Z, or so example right now, one of the things that I'm really developing is data science, and I'm doing a few courses on our Copilot website, looking at data analysis, presentation, and how to analyze and crunch numbers across large data sets. That's something we have internally for all employees, alongside a range of other development programs, lunch and learns, LinkedIn Learning, Access, etc. Excellent career progression. So as I mentioned, when you do finish that 3 or 4 years, you will be either, depending on the business area, put into a manager's or assistant manager sort of position. And again, from there is that ability to gain further promotion as long as you're doing the work well, you're meeting your targets. Yeah, you should be, what we kind of see within the firm is maybe every 2 to 3 years, you will be eligible for promotion if you are working hard and doing your job well. But that can change depending on what you're kind of doing, how well you're doing. But yeah, if you are working hard, meeting your targets, your KPIs, doing the right things, you should, every 2 to 3 years, find yourself in a position to progress within the firm. Network, so we have a range of diversity networks that you can also engage in. And outside of this, for example, we have a Black network, Sikh network, gender balanced network, a range of others. And even outside of this, depending on the office you are located at, there might be some example societies or activities that you do within your teams, within your office, within your kind of cohort of apprentices for that year. I work quite closely with the Reading office, and they've got a rugby team, a football team. They have I think it's a canoeing team as well. And I know the rugby team, I think they go on yearly trips to Scandinavia, to some of our colleagues in those offices for a tournament. There's so much, right? And that's across, depending on what office you're in, there might be a range of other opportunities that you can get involved in. And lastly, just there, we've got benefits. So yeah, just as I mentioned, when you do come in, you are a full-time employee. You're not, a trainee, a junior, etc. You are a full-time employee and have access to all of the firm's benefits, whether that is private healthcare, medical care, dental, a car scheme, investment portfolios, whatever that might be. There is a range of opportunities for you to really, I think the benefit that I've found, and some of our colleagues can talk about it a bit later, is the ability for me to take care, feel taken care of, have various aspects of, life, investments, etc. kind of covered, that I don't have to kind of worry about on a day-to-day basis, which ensures that, partly for me, there's a greater sense of well-being and ability to perform at work. So just to begin to round off, where will your journey begin? So Hannah B, yeah, this is what we're going through now. It is a 4-step process for most of our opportunities. The first is an online application. So really, as long as you are hitting our entry criteria, which should be on the next slide, you should be passing that first stage. I believe it's 5 A to C's for the Bright Start program. And really, this first stage is, us finding out a bit more about yourself, your name, where you're kind of coming from, what you studied, and your grades. The second stage is an online assessment. So this is really around workplace scenarios. So this is kind of multiple choice, and it might be that the question might be your manager has given you a deadline, or a client, you've got a client deadline within 1 week. However, you've got a new colleague starting and your manager has asked you to conduct an induction with that colleague. What do you do? Obviously, the predicament there is perhaps that you may not have enough time to induct your colleague and also finish your client work. It could be that perhaps you're stressed at that moment in time, and there will be a series of maybe 4 or 5 options that you can pick from to kind of say, this is the behavior I will take in this scenario. And this particular stage, it's really us testing your behaviors, your values, and seeing how will you engage and relate to your colleagues in the office, to stakeholders. And the key thing here, so just a tip for everyone, is the better you know about our values, so leading the way, collaborating for measurable impact, taking care of one another, inclusion and diversity. And there's one more which I always forget. But as the better you know us as a firm, our values, the easier it will be to identify what the right answer is at this second stage. The third stage is our job simulation stage. So this is where you would have some more technical questions based on the role you're applying for. You will have a video interview as well. So it might be you're in front of a laptop, they're given a question, and you might have 2 or 3 attempts to answer that question within a recorded time allocation. And you've got, maybe some time to do some practice answers. So that's that stage. If you are an early level apprentice, so this is if you are in Cardiff or Belfast, it stops here. But all other stages will go into the final stage assessment, which is where you would have an assessment centre with other candidates who have made it to this stage, and a final interview with someone a bit more senior within that particular business area. But yeah, the first stage, as long as you're hitting that 5 ATCs at GCSE, you should make that. And what we do have, I'm not sure if I've got it on the slides, is we have a new platform called the Candidate Preparation Zone that you can access and practice all of our assessments to ensure that you are as prepared as possible before entering the real application process. Yeah, this is it, the Candidate Preparation Zone. So again, the slides I believe will be shared, but if you wanted to scan that, it will take you straight to that page. And as I mentioned, there's going to be content there on our values. Sorry, can you guys still hear me? Yeah, okay. I can't see the screen anymore. I'm not sure if I'm still.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to reshare that. So if you just give me a sec.
No worries. But I'll just continue. Yeah, the candidate preparation zone is really where you can, access more information on the firm, read up on our values and how they look practically within the workplace. Where you can again, oh, perfect. Where you can practice our assessments, interviews, psychometric tests, and ensure that you are as prepared as possible um, to engage on that process. All right. So really, it's our way of ensuring that you're not caught out, that there is a level playing field, and that everyone has that equal opportunity to engage on our process. Perfect. So that was quite a lot of information. As I mentioned, if you were taking notes, the recording is going to be sent as well. Please do look back, and please do also use the candidate preparation zone. I will be here at the end to take questions. But for the next few minutes, I'm just going to hand over firstly to Craig to kind of share a bit more about his apprenticeship journey. Again, really listen keenly, take as many notes, ask as many questions in the chat, and we'll be able to kind of answer those. But Craig, I'm going to hand over to you for your journey.
Cool. Thank you. So hi guys, my name's Craig, and it's my so in 2021 I did my GCSEs, but it was a bit weird because that was like the COVID year. So we didn't really sit our exams. We did mocks in December, and then we did a lot of teacher assessed like tests all the way through to like June and July. So I didn't really get like the typical I sat my GCSEs in a big hall kind of thing. There were like a lot of mini tests done. But then I got into sixth form. At my sixth form, they were actually quite progressive. They didn't only focus on uni. So they did give us like a lot of talks about what the alternate options are. Some people went straight into jobs. I know a lot of people did BTECs. But they also introduced this idea of degree apprenticeships to us, and I never heard about that before. So I was really interested in it because for me personally, I didn't really think I'd do too well at uni. But I thought a degree apprenticeship where it's a lot more hands-on, I thought that's where I do a lot better. So I started applying at I think it was like late 2022, I think. So yeah, did my A levels in 2023 and I got the grades I needed to get into Deloitte. So I got my offer in March of 2023, and then they said as long as you get, I think it was 104 UCAS points or something like that. As long as you get 104 UCAS points in your A levels, you have a place with us. So I was like, cool. So you get very focused during those exam times, and so yeah, that was like 2023. 2020, I started working in September of 2023 and I've been working here ever since. And now that I've been working for a while, I've started revising for my exams here. So as a bright start in the course that I'm doing, you get your ACA and CTA. So I get my accounting qualification and my tax advisory qualification at the end of 4 years. So yeah, that was my journey.
Thank you, Craig. And again, we'll have time to kind of go through a bit more and answer some questions. I'm just going to hand over to Sophie to take it over in her journey.
Yeah, awesome. Cheers. So my name's Sophie. I'm based in Belfast. And I'm kind of the same. So in 2022, I heard about the Bright Start program purely through a past pupil. Apprenticeships weren't really circulated in my schools much or really a recommended option. So I had a past pupil reach out to my teacher and just put the link out there. And I had never heard of Bright Start before. And I just went ahead and applied online. So then later in 2022, I then got my A-level results. I was then accepted into the Bright Start scheme with Deloitte, and I was accepted as a software developer within Deloitte Digital. I then started attending my university course, which is in the University of Ulster, for computing science. And then I joined my first project, which is, like we said, you work with a big client, and that's you on a project of lots of people based within different parts of Deloitte. Within 2023, I then completed my first year of my course. It was my 1 year anniversary since joining the firm, and then I changed project team. And then in 2024, I moved on and attended my university apprenticeship awards. And I'm still on the same project since I joined, so I'm just continuing to study towards my degree qualification and then learn the same on my project with coding in Java. And that is my journey.
Awesome, thank you, Sophie. And next we have Ben.
Yeah, hi everyone. So basically mine's quite similar to Craig. I did my GCSEs in 2021, obviously during the COVID year. So I sat most of mine online, which was a bit quite unique. Then in 2022, I sort of towards the end of 2022 heard about the sort of Bright Start program. I applied I think I applied in September and then got accepted in December for the program. On like certain conditions for my A level, and then next year sat my A levels in 2023, passed them all, happy days, and then so obviously I joined Deloitte in the September of 2023, and now obviously I'm continuing to work in 2024. I've sat my first accountancy exam at the beginning of this year, and then I've got another one coming up in a couple of months, but I've started revising for, but it should be all good. So yeah, that's my journey so far.
Perfect, thank you, Ben. And yeah, I think it's time for a Q&A. I'm not sure if I'm handing back to you, Ellie, for this.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So we have actually had quite a few questions come through. So we'll try and get through as many as possible. I'll sort of just ping them to whoever is the most relevant person, if that's okay. So Zion, I will come to you first because we have had quite a few questions about the entry requirements. So the first one is, what are the different entry requirements for your apprenticeship programs?
Yeah, so on I think I think I mentioned 5 A to C's minimum at GCSE. I believe this year in September we changed. I know we used to look at A levels quite a bit, but I think in terms of, as a firm, us wanting to have a bit more kind of diversity and widen our opportunities to a wider pool of students, we're only looking at GCSEs level, and that way it enables more students to engage in our process, show what they can kind of do, and yeah, hopefully access the program and be quite successful. So as long as you're hitting that 5 A to C's, you should be fine.
Perfect. And then another one about the entry requirements are, do you accept BTECs or AS levels alongside A levels, or are A levels
So yeah,
the only
whatever.
thing?
Yeah. No, so BTEC as well, I think it will just be the equivalent. So when you are going through the application process, it would ask you what you kind of studied. So whether you are within UK, Northern Ireland, Scotland, you can kind of put that kind of drop down on the kind of qualification you did, and the relevant kind of grades will kind of come up. So yeah, we also will accept the equivalent of that 5 ATC. I think the key thing actually to say, guys, is that first, just make the application. It might be that 1 year we have less applicants, so perhaps the entry requirements are a bit lowered. So I think the best thing really is you make the application first, give yourself that first opportunity, and yeah, we will get back to you on that.
Perfect. And then I've got one for the apprentices. I don't mind who goes or if each of you want to go. But what did you do during college to build experience to help your application? I don't know if Craig, do you want to go first, and then Sophie, then Ben?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So during my sixth form, I didn't really do anything specific to like strengthen my application, but I did quite a few like sports extracurriculars. Um, I was a prefect in my school. I was a deputy head boy and stuff like that. So like just little things like that. It doesn't necessarily have to relate to the course that you want to do, but just having those extracurriculars and extra experience in sixth form was what I put on my application.
Right. And Sophie?
Yeah, my answer is the exact same, especially for me in a technology role. It's not as much what your coding experience is. That's not really involved in your hiring process. They really are, like they said, looking for those soft skills. So I was exact same, was prefect and deputy head girl, just getting used to building connections with people, networking, and building those soft skills like presenting and talking between people is really useful and comes across really well within the whole hiring process.
Perfect. And Ben?
Yeah, I would agree with the other two, but I would add it doesn't necessarily what you do have to be directly involved with your school. So for example, like I worked just at like a restaurant for a year. That was very useful to then transfer into like some of the questions they sort of throw your way in the interviews. You can say, I've done this, I've done that. So I'd say it doesn't necessarily need to be directly linked to your school. Like it could be like I play rugby on a Sunday for a club. Stuff like that would be also perfectly good.
Great, thank you guys. And then I have another one. So Zion, this is probably best for you. For the study leave, are the uni lectures done online or face to face in person?
I think actually the apprentices could answer that because it might differ. Yeah,
Yeah.
if I could just throw that to the apprentices, it might differ on the program.
Do I go first? I'll go first again. So I mean, it's a mix. So I know my first college that I did was completely online, but I know for my next one, it's a mix. So I'll go in for some of the lessons to, I think it's something like Islington or something, but then half the others are online.
Great. And Sophie, do you want to go?
Yeah.
Or
So
Ben?
yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead? I can go just for my one. It is mandatory to be in person, so it really depends on your region. Each university will have it set up with the company, whether they provide online learning or not. So that's something you will find out within the process.
Yeah, for mine, it depends on what you're studying because I know some apprentices who aren't studying the same course as me are in person for almost all of it. But then I'm a sort of mix of both, so I think it depends actually on what type of apprenticeship you're doing.
Great, thank you. And then Zion, somebody or a couple of people have asked if you could talk a little bit about the Aspire Year 12 work experience.
oh, interesting. Yeah, yeah. We do. I've seen a few questions come up on that. We do still have some of those open. I believe in London there might be a virtual one still open, and there might be a few. I think one in Birmingham as well. But it's really Vespire is a kind of 2 to 3 day insight experience. So depending on the type, so if it was an in-person one, you would visit our office. You would have accommodation for that period and travel funded by the firm. And it's just a time for you to really kind of understand who we are, what we do. We'll take you through some kind of business game, business type of activities for you to get a better understanding of what the work looks like and what skills you have, and then really how from that kind of experience you'll get a clearer knowledge of perhaps what areas of a business might be for you. So it's really is a kind of insight experience across a broad range of activities within the business, and it's designed for you to not just find out about us but find out about yourself and where you could best fit into the firm. And I think, as I mentioned in the talk, that if you really put your best foot forward, really impress and do well, and you wanted to make an application for the Bright Start program, yeah, that application could be fast tracked if you've kind of really impressed. If perhaps you are not going on to the apprenticeship program and you wanted to apply for university, we have, example, a Spring into Deloitte first year program that you could also be fast tracked towards as well. So the real thing that we try and do is, once we've identified, talent, students as yourselves who are, really keen, have kind of skills to kind of engage and fit into the business, we want to kind of keep you in and ensure that we're giving you more opportunities to develop. And rather than you get to, example, maybe you go to university and you're stressing about, oh, I need to find a job. Most students who engage on our maybe early programs would have a job offer a year in advance as well. So that's just, again, I think a real key thing to kind of think about when you are looking at the firm, that there is that ability to kind of really fast track further applications into those permanent positions.
Fab, thank you. And then just a couple more. So this one can sort of be for any of you guys. I'm not sure what your particular backgrounds were in terms of the A levels that you studied, but a few people have asked, would the apprenticeship schemes be challenging for somebody who has no financial, tech or tech subject qualifications? So whoever feels confident in answering that, I don't mind who.
I would say no, because like you said before, they bring you in under the assumption you have zero knowledge whatsoever. So they train you up as soon as you get in. So like if you do have some, it's easier for you, but it's not necessarily that you have to have a background in finance. Like, I didn't have any background in finance. I just did maths at A level, but they do really just train you up and like they teach you how to do stuff. So you don't really need any background in it, I don't think.
Anyone else want to say anything else on that one?
Yeah, I would just say
Yeah, I'll
it's
just touch on
it's
that.
not essential. So
Yeah, I think Ben's, you're completely right. Yeah, you're coming in, as a student. Do you know what I mean? So we know, as I mentioned, that you may not have the experience or the kind of foreknowledge, but on top of that, we are what we call degree agnostic. So really, that means that back in the day, maybe 10 years ago, the expectation was that if you studied maybe math, you would go into accounting and finance or something like that. Whereas now, what we're seeing is quite fluid careers. So it's not about what you studied. It's about, do you have the competencies to deliver the work, because we're going to train you in how to do it. So if maybe you wanted to apply for a technology role but you haven't done a kind of IT kind of subject, that doesn't matter, as long as you have that willingness to learn, to be teachable, to challenge problems, to problem solve and think critically. That's enough, because when you do come to the firm, we will train you on how to do the role, how to engage with stakeholders, how to use XYZ program. It's 4 years for a reason. You're building up yourself during that time. So yeah, there is no pressure on you guys to know XYZ. If perhaps you have had some work experience in a certain area, of course, that would help you to settle in quicker or pick things up a bit more easier. But there is no, real necessity for you to have that.
Thanks, Zion. And then the final question for you guys, which I'm going to ask each of the apprentices to quickly answer, is if you were your 18-year-old self again and you were like these guys looking for an apprenticeship, what is one piece of advice that you would give them? Whoever wants to go first.
I'd probably say don't limit yourself to just one role. So I would say, like, I knew I wanted to go into somewhere that was based in finance, but I didn't really know what. So I didn't like only choose. So if I chose whatever role I chose in Deloitte, I might not have chosen in another apprenticeship that I applied to. So I'd say keep your options open and don't like limit yourself to one thing, because it's a lot harder to get to the one you want to do. But if you get into something that's close to it, you can easily move in the future if you still want to do that.
Great, thank you. And Sophie?
Yeah, I'd say kind of the same. It's just apprenticeships are great that they don't take up a UCAS spot. So it's a great opportunity, even if you're not set at the moment, but you're thinking about an apprenticeship, to even have it as a backup option. I know a lot of people feel like they have to have either their head like eggs in one basket, but you can apply a UCAS as normal and still have an apprenticeship sitting there, and it's up to you to make the decision. So that's what I always say to everybody is apply anyways. Because what is the worst outcome? That you decide you don't get in and you go a different route. So it's well worth putting one in.
Definitely. And Ben?
Yeah, I'd agree with both of them. I would say also when you're looking at applying for apprenticeships, I would say not only look at like what you're doing, but also what you're studying and what sort of qualification you're getting out of that, whether it be a degree or like a professional qualification, and make sure that's opening doors that you wanna open for yourself. So I would say like do just a bit of research as well into the actual qualification that's being offered with the apprenticeship. I think that's really good to do as well.
Great, thank you guys. Well, unfortunately, that is all we have time for today, but we'll make sure to send all of your questions over to Deloitte. But I just wanted to say thank you for the team at Deloitte for speaking with us this evening, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Ellie, and thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care. Bye.